People all the time say that, people say, who would Tom Brady, the quarterback, be without the coach Bill Belichick? Would he have been the same quarterback without his coach? And I wonder, why does nobody ever say the same thing about Michael Jordan and his coach? Doug Collins was the coach in Chicago before Phil Jackson took over as the Bulls head coach. And Doug Collins' strategy was to build a team around Michael Jordan. Now, the problem was that the Detroit Pistons figured this out, and their strategy was they zeroed in on Michael Jordan. They had that thing called the Jordan rules, where they took Jordan out of the game. And when you did that, the Bulls had no answer. They had no other plan to how to win a game. Now, Phil Jackson became the coach, and he changed things. He decided, let's have a more team-oriented strategy. We're going to have more ball movement. We're going to call it the triangle offense. That's what it was, that triangle offense, that more ball movement, more movement off the ball. And it was less reliant on Michael Jordan's isolated ability to score points. And it worked. It won a ton of championships. And it's so interesting, even in his interview, Michael Jordan said this. He said, without that change, Jordan would not have been the same dude. He wouldn't have been a guy who scored 30 points a game and probably never would have won a championship. Basically, when I heard that, I went, man, without Phil Jackson, Jordan would have been Russell Westbrook or James Harden, a guy who puts up a bunch of points and never really gets to the quote the guy said was, never wins the final game of the year. Phil Jackson played a massive, massive part in giving MJ the opportunity to play in a team-centric system. That's like a story no one seems to talk about with Michael Jordan. I want to give props to Jordan for embracing that idea and putting his team number one. But Phil Jackson, the head coach, is an underrated part of Michael Jordan's legacy that no one ever seems to talk about or really appreciate. It's so interesting to me. For the record, I hate the whole GOAT debate. Who's the greatest of all time? I don't care. It's not really a productive conversation because there's no metric. There's no way to evaluate. It's just all silliness. I think it's really something that ESPN and other sports networks invented to fill time and to create controversy when there was nothing else to talk about. The GOAT debate in a whole, I hate the GOAT debate. I think it's very, very silly. It's really not a productive conversation to have. And this is a new thing for me. In the last 2 years, as a broadcaster, I've evolved. I have videos talking about the GOAT debate. But I think in the end, it's not really worth talking about because what does it matter? There's no common ground. You can't really find one. And there's no rubric. There's no way to measure that. And how can you compare people from different eras? It makes no sense to me. Like, how can you compare Kobe and LeBron and Jordan and Jerry Bird? And it makes no sense to me. But you got to recognize Phil Jackson's role in Michael Jordan's story is a reminder that the circumstance plays such a big part in how a player's career goes. You can be amazing by yourself, but winning as a team requires the right situation. Think of how many players historically have been so good, but never really had the right situation around them to give them an opportunity potentially to win a championship. In case you don't know, Strong Opinion Sports is not just a YouTube channel. It is also a full audio podcast. You can find it on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Play, pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. And if you like podcasts, please do me a huge favor and give it a listen.